Accounting is tough for small to medium-sized businesses. Accounting is tough for large businesses.
Right.
Even when I was sitting in leadership roles in $100 million plus private equity owned organizations, I still found myself needing half a person here, half a person there in different roles with different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And that impact is exacerbated in the small business community when budgets are constrained and resources are typically lower.
Thanks for listening to the PEO Pod, where we're simplifying and optimizing the employee experience. This week, I get to hang out with my good friend, Josh Farber. Josh is a sneaky good golfer, but more importantly, he is probably one of the sharpest people that I've ever met, especially when it comes to back office accounting functions. Josh has built out a team of individuals that help small to mid-sized businesses streamline their back office, particularly as it relates to back office accounting. Josh and I have worked together on a number of deals, and I really wanted to sit down with him and pick his brain on why small businesses would choose to use his team for their back office accounting and what particular functions might marry well with the PEO model. So thanks for listening. For people who don't know you or what you do, could you give me like a 2-minute kind of backstory on what you did before your time with us and then kind of what led you to what you're currently doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Hayden, I started my career as a CPA in public accounting, did audits of middle market private equity owned companies, realized I wanted more. I thought I wanted to be the CFO. So I spent a decade really chasing that dream, got to that dream, realized it's not exactly what I wanted.
Okay.
And in hindsight, I think I missed being a profit center and was not satisfied being a cost center. So I found my way back into the professional services space with an HR payroll company that also had a bookkeeping division. And I got the chance to take a leadership role in that bookkeeping division and really turn it into a value add services business, which ultimately culminated with the sale to G&A Partners back at the end of 2020. So stepping into the G&A world, I was asked to launch a new accounting services business unit underneath the G&A umbrella, addressing a very similar need that we address with our PEO solutions, now from an accounting lens.
Cool. So talk to me about like what exactly are y'all providing to small to mid-sized businesses? How does that work?
Yeah, great. So accounting is tough for small to medium-sized businesses. Accounting is tough for large businesses.
Right.
Even when I was sitting in leadership roles in $100 million plus private equity owned organizations, I still found myself needing half a person here, half a person there in different roles with different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
And that impact is exacerbated in the small business community when budgets are constrained and resources are typically lower. So we've created a solution to address that need by, long story short, Hayden, we do bookkeeping, but we do it a lot better. We do bookkeeping with a team, and a team comprised of 3 degreed professionals operating so that their tasks that they're doing are really nicely aligned with their unique skill sets.
Okay. So in many respects, I would imagine your value proposition is much the same as mine, which is when you're a small business, resources are strapped, and oftentimes one individual ends up wearing 3 or 4 different hats that's just not scalable. And so the question then becomes, okay, do we throw more bodies at it and hire more people, or do we find a trusted partner who can potentially offload some of that internal burden? Is that essentially what y'all are providing just from an accounting perspective?
Generally speaking, yes. Yes. And I would say there are 2 key values that we're looking to deliver. The first one is segregation of duties. In the accounting world, that means decreasing the risk of fraud. Decreasing the reliance on one person controlling all the money and reconciling the books, to put it simply.
One person who's the keeper of the keys, so to speak.
One person, exactly. So by having a trusted team, not just a trusted person, you can de-risk that area of your business. The second piece is similar but a little different. It's business continuity. Again, now it's not so much from a fraud risk, but it's from an operational risk. Mm-hmm. When we put all of our eggs in one basket and we have a keeper of the keys, when it works well, it feels good. When it stops working well, it becomes a huge problem and a huge pain.
It's probably been a decade or so ago, but we used to do this marketing campaign we called the $1 Million Employee. And like the whole premise was we never take a day off. We're never sick. You're getting a team of individuals, 6, 7 people who are providing you services from a back office. And if you could find an individual who could do all the things we do and who never took a day off, you'd have to pay them $1 million.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I love that. It's the same thing. Maybe ours is a $500,000
Sure.
employee, but it's the
doesn't
same
have
thesis.
quite the same ring to it, but I like it. Okay, so when you're talking about providing a team of individuals, like what are those individuals you're giving?
So to me, the standard roles, and this is in the weeds. This is the blocking and tackling. This is the weekly accounting tasks that need to happen all the time, every single week.
Okay.
To me, the leader is a controller.
Okay.
The key point of contact is a senior accountant, and then at the bottom is a staff accountant.
Okay.
Now, all 3 of these folks are professionals on our team.
Okay.
So they are just at different stages of their career, right? But it creates that natural, number one, it creates the upward flow of information so that we can have reviews in place.
Mm-hmm.
A great example is, like, think about accounts payable. We need to pay our vendors.
Right.
But we want to double check that it's correct before we send those payments out.
Yep.
The staff accountant can enter the invoices into the system. The senior accountant can review it, and the controller can ultimately release payment, in our case, once the client has approved.
Okay. So I'm curious because I hear all that and I'm like, why would you not do that? So why do small businesses push back? Or what is maybe the more traditional model in-house, so to speak? Like, what does that look like in most cases?
In some cases, it's an evolution.
Okay.
So when a business starts, this hat is worn by the founder.
Okay.
It's worn by the founder's significant other, or it's worn by the founder's brother, mother, father, uncle, aunt. Plug the name in. Whoever can do it will do it.
Okay.
And sometimes that person can stretch, and there has to be some kind of inflection point. And some of those inflection points that make a solution like ours compelling is folks want more insights.
Mm-hmm.
Just good enough is not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe the financials match what's happened in the bank, but is it telling the story of the business?
Mm-hmm.
Is it reflecting performance of the different business units?
Right.
Or the different projects or the different product lines?
Yeah.
And how can we see in numbers what that executive, what that owner feels in their gut?
Mm-hmm.
And how can we make sure we stress test that gut feeling?
You're quantifying it, so to speak.
Yes.
Interesting. So when you are implementing a solution, like what does that process typically look like? I'm assuming you have an initial conversation with that client and kind of get a lay of the land, but then from there, like, how do you put together a solution, and what are kind of the data points that help you determine what you're looking for?
Sure. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, nor do I think it can be to be successful. So our engagements really look at 3 different things to help steer the trajectory and ultimately the investment.
Okay.
Those 3 things are scope of services. So what all are we doing?
Okay.
Volume, how many transactions are running through the business, and complexity.
Okay.
What are the complexity of those transactions? How nuanced are we getting with the financial reporting?
Okay.
Once we work through that, not just through a discovery call, but through a deep dive, comprehensive financial assessment, where we review the books, review the infrastructure, check for inaccuracies, and check for effectiveness, then we can craft a custom solution that lays out, usually on 1 page, what our distinct responsibilities are and where we interact with the customers and their team. We can surround in-house personnel, or in some cases, we can be the entire accounting department.
So it's going to look quite a bit different from client to client, just based upon probably what they already have in place and what their budget is set for. It
will. I mean, some things are always there, but some things are much different, and some things come in heavier doses than others, which is really why that assessment and that deep dive scoping process is so valuable.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things on the PEO side that I have found really helpful over the years is, like, I work with a lot of brokers, right? And so there's certainly a large percentage of my business where, unfortunately, I'm picking up a phone, I'm calling, I'm working my way in on my own. But it's always helpful for me when I have a trusted broker partner who's like, hey, I already have a relationship in place with these guys. I'm going to walk you in the door. I've already vetted you. We've done business before, and I'm going to introduce you to this client. And so, I mean, my win rates on those group are astronomically higher, right? Not only that, but like one broker referral is worth, 500 cold calls. So like in your world, do those type of channel partnerships exist? And if so, who are the type of people you typically would work with?
Yeah, great question. I'll speak in general, and then I'll speak about our world.
Okay.
Because in general, the accounting ecosystem is fairly complicated. You have everyone from tax CPAs, filing forms with the federal government, doing audits, doing very nuanced technical work. We talk about bookkeepers, some great, some not great. We hear CFOs, and we hear that word thrown around a lot, and that means a lot of different things depending on who you're talking to. So there are firms out there that want to do that entire spectrum of accounting services under one roof. We are not one of those firms.
Okay.
I believe very strongly in bringing the right tool for the job.
Okay.
So we've established our business as that tool to do the blocking and tackling, day-to-day, week-to-week work. Once we put those bands around who we are and where we fit in that ecosystem, it unlocked a whole world of really good channel partners that we can get from and give to. So the most natural one are fractional CFOs.
Okay. That makes a ton of sense, because I think, the parallel in our world would be, there are times where the PEO relationship and the broker relationship can be seen as adversarial, because we're after the same type of business, but we're coming from a little bit of a different vantage point. And so my most successful brokerage partners have been those who say, hey, we're not enemies. Like, there's a way for us to service the client together that works really well, not only for the client, but for my agency and for us as a PEO. And so I would think similar to that, like, y'all are not providing fractional CFO services, right?
That's true.
Okay, so differentiate for me, the fractional CFO world and kind of what y'all are doing.
Yeah. Again, my opinion, lots of those out there, right?
Right.
To me, the simplest way to define it is that the work that we do is primarily focused on looking backwards.
Okay.
We want to take what has happened, report it accurately, and make sure it's insightful.
Okay.
Usually once we record those results, analyze those results, and deliver those results, that's sort of where our job stops.
Okay.
And where our job stops, that's where a good fractional CFO steps in.
Got it. Okay.
These folks are going to be more strategic, typically more tenured in their career, and they're going to want to help project forward. They want to predict the future. They want to predict the future from a really solid baseline of historical performance, but they want to use that to look forward and make sure they're guiding that business owner to make the proper decisions.
So there is a world in which a small to mid-sized business would say, Josh, you and your team are going to be our rearward-looking tax professionals. Fractional CFO, you're going to be our forward-looking. And they've outsourced all of those accounting functions, but to two people that are working on different kind of sides of the equation, so to speak.
Yes.
Interesting.
It is. And it's, it's taken some learning.
Yeah.
But at this point, we have embraced our role, and we have focused really hard on not only cultivating those relationships with fractional CFOs, but also optimizing those relationships so that the client does feel, while they have two separate agreements with two separate professional service providers, they feel a holistic solution that goes all the way across that value spectrum.
Yeah, interesting. So what about, like, I have always thought, yes, HR and accounting are two very different things, but there is a certain amount of cohesion between the two. And I thought what you do and what a PEO does, there's a really elegant back office solution where they're talking to one another. Can you talk to me about like what that looks like? Like when you do provide accounting services to a group that's in a PEO, how much easier does that make your life, and how much easier are you potentially making their life?
Selfishly, we love when payroll is taken care of and covered and not on our scope of services.
I bet.
So it makes it a lot easier when it's in a PEO. Now, in general, we love having another partner that understands the challenges of multiple businesses across multiple different industries, kind of like we do.
Sure.
So a great example is we had a client that was getting diligent and really wanted to focus in on their profitability at a project level.
Okay.
And we were able to start that conversation by going upstream and really beginning the conversation at timekeeping. And naturally, as we started talking about timekeeping, because they're a professional services business and all of their cost is people, we had to capture that time somehow.
Right.
So the conversation turned to payroll and ultimately PEO. And we were able to work with that PEO team to get a better timekeeping solution in place that could capture the project, the time spent on projects at the root level, and then let it trickle all the way through payroll, all the way through into the general ledger of the financial statements in a much cleaner way.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Now, I would imagine in your world, it's similar to ours, where like there's really good fits and there's really not good fits. So like, what are the types of businesses, whether it's industry, size, makeup, like what makes for a good client in your world?
Yeah, we're 3.5 years into this journey with G&A, and we've started to really understand the answer to that question better. And I think what it really boils down to, now we have certain systems that we work in. We work in QuickBooks Online and Sage Intacct. So that's the easy answer to that question.
If you're not on those two, you're not a good client.
If you're not on QuickBooks Online or you're not on Sage Intacct, there are other great professionals out there to support you. Now, the common characteristic of most of our clients is that people is the number one expense on their P&L.
Right.
This is not a hard and fast rule, but across most of our client base, people is the number one cost. That's true for nonprofit organizations. That's true for commercial contracting organizations. It's true for professional service organizations. So while they all are operating in different industries and have different needs, the fact of the matter is they need to know how their people are performing, how well their people are utilized, where their people are spending their time, and are they spending their time in an area that's creating max profitability for the business.
Yeah, love it. Okay, I like to do this with all my guests. I give you a 1 to 2 minute soapbox that you can literally say whatever you want to say about anything. So audience will be listening. Many of them might be potential referral partners, potential clients, people at other PEOs. Like if you could say one thing to them, what would you hope that they hear?
Oh my gosh.
I should have prepped you beforehand and given you a chance, but I'm going to throw you on the spot here.
1 to 2 minute soapbox.
Yeah. Dealer's choice. To maybe I'll narrow it down for you a little bit. To a small business owner who finds themselves in a situation where they want to grow, they want to operate efficiently, and they're stuck. Enter your solution. What would you have them hear you say?
Yeah. Don't put it off. The problem's not going to fix itself. Don't make filing taxes be your minimum criteria for accounting. Like we need to do the baseline, but there's going to come a time where you're going to want to level up those insights, and without having some semblance of history, it's going to be really, really difficult.
Perfect. Dude, appreciate you hanging out with me and buying me Thai food before this.
Hayden, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, man.
Let's have a good couple days.
Yes.